Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours, with 10% off using code FD10. Follow the links in the description below.
Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, and today I'm in an astonishingly rare car, and one I've got to be super careful with because it belongs to Honda UK and they only let it out on special occasions because it is such a cosseted little thing. This is a 1968 Honda S800. Now, if you like reviews of interesting, unusual, different cars, then do please hit like and of course subscribe to find more unusual cars being driven and talked about. Now on with this review here. Now the S800 was revealed at the 1965 Tokyo Motor Show, and it replaced the S600. And like the S600, you could have it as a beautiful little coupe, or like this, you can have it as a convertible with no frames on the doors to be fully open to the wind and the elements, which is the way you should be driving a sports car like this, really. Because although we have categories of cars, you know, SUV, estate, that kind of thing, back then there was an entire category which was basically British sports car, because no one else apart from, well, the Italians really did anything like the MGs and the Triumphs and all those kind of things. But Honda wanted to have a little crack at that, and so they did with these little fantastic things. But Honda were really a motorbike manufacturer, so they brought a lot of motorbike kind of know-how to their cars. They haven't really made a car before 1963. This thing makes peak power at 8,500 RPM, which is just mental. And thanks to that kind of ridiculous high revving motor, this car was Honda's first 100-mile-an-hour car. Now Honda really are known for their clever engineering, so it's no surprise that this thing is such a brilliant little thing under the skin. It's also a bit of a bargain. It cost £771, I think, when it was new, which undercuts things like the Mini Cooper of the day or the Triumph Spitfire. Now it really is a tiny, tiny little car, and I'm glad the roads are pretty quiet today because it feels so small when you're next to bigger SUVs and things. But despite being 60 years old, this car just drives so well, freshly, and it's been fully restored at a ridiculous expense, and Honda are understandably protective of it because if anything breaks on it, you just cannot get parts. They only sold just over 1,500 of them in the UK in the entire production run, so there's not a huge number of cars to go back to for spare parts, and no one really supports it for spare parts either. And also, it completely changed mechanically halfway through production. This is a 1968 car, so it's a little bit later on. But the first cars, though, were actually chain driven to the back because Honda, being motorbike people, they chain drove the cars. Also, at pretty great expense, it had fully independent suspension as well. So chain drive, fully independent suspension, bit pricey, kind of hard to look after. So midway through production, they switched it to a regular ordinary drive shaft to the back and a live rear axle with panhard rods to kind of keep everything in check. But it was still fast. That tiny but very, very high revving engine made it not only Honda's first 100-mile-an-hour car, it's also described as the fastest sub-1 litre car in the world at the time of production. Now the gear shift is a little rifle bolt. You snick through that so easily, and the engine just wants to rev and rev and rev. The pedals, though, are surprisingly heavy for such a little car. And the steering wheel is right down in your lap, so all the time it's just rubbing on your legs. Now you might have noticed I'm not going too far in the car today. I'm not revving it particularly highly either. And I'm not really taking it over sort of 3,500, 4,000 RPM. But that's because the guys in the workshop asked me not to, and I'm not going to go against that. because it's got a little bit of top end tick at the moment and we don't want to cause any problems to the car. As I say, if anything goes wrong on this, that's it, game over. No one's got spare parts for it. But it makes such an amazing noise from those twin exhausts sprouting at the back with the roof down. You can hear it so clearly. Oh, it's brilliant. But it just grips and grips. This long, sweeping left-hander. So much fun. This is possibly one of my new favourite cars. So, just drink it in. It is so pretty. I mean, have you ever seen a prettier car than this? I would struggle to find one that looks as nice as this car. The proportions, the detailing's all just perfect. It really is so nice. Everything is just right. But the thing that really strikes you is just how tiny the car is, how utterly diminutive. I did this with the Auto Bianchi, the one-step test. There's nothing of it. It's not quite a K car small. It's 3.33 meters long and it's 771 kilos. So it's tiny and it's light, which makes it into a great sports car. Think of things like the MG Midget and smaller Austin Healey's, those kind of things. Fits into that little bag. In terms of dimensions and handling. The styling though is so nicely done. So many lovely little details. For example, these headlamp bezels, which also include the side lights, not the indicators, they are included here in the radiator grille. But this grille is one big stamping, and the H is even included in that stamping as well. The bumpers, lovely bit of chrome, but not a straight line. It dips down in the centre to give way and give visual access to the Honda grille. And then moving back, we've got this fantastic sort of fighter plane inspired bulge, like a drop tank on a fighter plane they used to make into hot rods. This is here to give a bit of access to the carburetors. Then you've got this stainless steel swage line trim, which runs all the way down the length of the front wing, across the top of the door, and then onto the rear wing, where there is still this little vestigial fin, but not vertical lights, horizontal lights, top half red, bottom half orange, and two little circles. And this bumper, like at the front, dips down in the middle to give you room to see the number plate. And you'll notice here the spare wheel, because there's not a huge amount of room in the boot, it's slung underneath. You can actually see it sticking down the back. Oh, did I mention it's got twin exhausts? Because yes, it's got twin exhausts. And there is actually a decent boot here. I would say there's more room here than there is in my MX-5 boot. Really good. Now here at the front, check out this engine. It's tiny, absolutely minuscule. It's like a doll's house thing. And to make things fit around here, we've got the battery up here on the front at the left and the radiator pushed off to the right, just to make enough space for everything to fit. And the gearbox is absolutely dinky as well, sitting down there, obviously going towards the back of the car. Look at the fantastic detailing. We've got this chrome rocker cover here on my side of the car. We've got this chrome airbox over here. We've got this pair of key in the carburetors, looking absolutely fantastic. It sounds so good as well. It's only 771 cc's. It's a twin cam engine, and that's good for 0 to 60 of 13.6 seconds. And it makes 70 horsepower at 8,000 RPM and redlines at 9,500 RPM. You can really tell that Honda were drawing on their sort of motorbike history to build this car. Now check out this interior. So simple, but again, so just elegant and pretty. Door card, very simple indeed, entirely covered in padded vinyl. Just a winder, a little grab handle, and a door opener. And of course, frameless doors, because it's a little convertible. We have got a little pressed metal kick plate here, just don't scratch the car up as we get in. That's from the factory. And a couple of little tiny bucket seats, typical 1960s sports car bucket seats, not that buckety and no headrests. So, all good. And there's not a lot of room in this car. And check out how offset to the right the pedals are. Interestingly, because there's quite a bit of space to the left of that clutch, so they could have done a little bit more. We do have a little bit of a tea shelf going on just here, so you can put some small snacks just there. Not much in front of the driver. We've got some poppers just here, so we can put a tonneau cover off if we're parked up and it looks like it might rain. Not that we'd take this car out in the rain ever. A glove box, because we're posh, which does have some tiny cup holders which don't actually sit level, so that's curious. And then this really cool little dashboard just here. It's an interesting shade of kind of light grey blue just there. Got quite a big amp and fuel gauge over on the left. We've got a temperature gauge, curiously in Fahrenheit. Then this is interesting, a tachometer that goes to 11,000 RPM. Have you ever seen that in a car before? That's a little bit unusual. And speedo going all the way to 120, made by Denso of Japan. I love vintage fonts as well, seeing the typography that they've chosen. Very square block capitals for everything, turn signal, high beam,
parking brake, speedometer. And the horn, oh, horn test. Oh, that's a pioneering Japanese sports car pop. I ran out of things to say on that one. And of course, we've got our ignition switch over here. Back and centre, a few more controls, choke, wipers with slow and fast, and a washer, headlights and dimmer, whoa. And heater controls. Now, heater in a sports car, nothing new, but heater in a sports car that probably worked. That's can be quite exciting. And H for Honda or helicopter or something. With a blanking plate where radio could have gone, and an ashtray, of course, because there is. And there we've got the dinkiest little 4-speed manual gearbox gear stick you ever did see. Like everything else in the car, it is diminutive, but this is absolutely tiny. And next to that, a handbrake. Regular, not a fly-off handbrake, which is sort of quite nice. They're making it nice and easy and accessible for people to drive. And this steering wheel. It's a brown fake wood, I think it's like a fake wood plastic rim. It's always very heavy and solid, but it sits so low in your lap, it's actually quite tricky to get in and out of the car. Little Honda badge in the centre just there as well.
In that true British sports car style, everything feels incredibly direct. It doesn't take a lot of effort to turn the steering wheel. The steering wheel is a little bit heavy, of course, there's no power steering, but it's just instant connection to the wheels and it just goes where you want it to go. A little bit of roll, but you expect that, but it's quite stiff for a 60s car, and you can sort of see the jittering in the camera, I expect. Oh, it's magnificent. It just feels like a true product of the 60s, but the really best top end of that kind of stuff. This kind of is the spiritual predecessor to things like the S2000. Even the MX-5, rival brand as it is, but you know. So I hope you've enjoyed this ride out in this magnificent little Honda. Thank you so much to Honda UK for letting me take it out. I really appreciate it. And I hope it didn't get rained on. If you've enjoyed this, please as always hit like and subscribe and join us again next time driving something completely different.